Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is Preach Jacobs, your host for Worthy Cause podcast on the Arena Network. For the people that know me, you guys may be in the Columbia area, involved in South Carolina. You know, I'm a journalist, I'm an artist. I've been involved in the community as a creative and someone that's been involved in being finding that connective tissue as to figuring out how to be civically active. And this is why I think that a company like the Arena is really, really important. But I do understand that the greatest thing in the world is to start something new. And the hardest thing in the world is to explain something new. So I have a guest and partner here as we try to figure out how to do these remote interviews. My homie, Tyler Jones, please tell us about yourself, and let's kind of give our audience an idea of about what we wanted to do with the Arena in covering South Carolina in a new and unique way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Preach. And thanks for having me. And thanks for being a part of this team, Preach. We're excited to have you. We're excited to get started. We're recording this the day before our launch. So a lot of things going on.
No pressure at all.
No pressure. Not much happening at the office this week. But yeah, I mean, this has been an idea that I've been kicking around with folks for over a decade. And, you know, I've worked in South Carolina politics now for the better part of 20 years and running campaigns. Worked at the State House for a long time, worked with just about every progressive organization in the state. And one thing that I've seen over and over and over again is just the lack of engagement, the lack of informed citizens in South Carolina, folks who, through no fault of their own, have a lot going on in their lives, and they don't have time to, you know, nerd out about politics like the rest of us do. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we live our lives thinking, okay, everybody's thinking the same way I'm thinking. They're consuming news the same way I consume news. We're the weird ones. That's what I've learned over the years. We're actually the ones that are the exception to the rule. And part of that is folks like me. I'm not going to put you into this, Preach, but folks like me who obsess over politics.
You can throw me in there.
We are not normal. And, you know, the majority of people out there, you know, they get up, they go to work, they come home, they cook dinner, they spend time with their family, they watch their favorite show, and then they go to bed, and then they get up and do it all over again. And a lot of the news that comes out of both Columbia and Washington these days is pretty depressing. And so a lot of people tune that stuff out. But I think we've also gotten to the point now where we don't know what to believe. We don't know, you know, if somebody's being real with us or if they're just getting paid to say something. If somebody, you know, is speaking from their heart, or if there's an ulterior motive, or if it's, you know, if it's the traditional media, is it, you know, sort of a directive from corporate, you know, from the top down. The media landscape is so different that it is truly changing how we interact with people, how we talk to people, how we consume news, how we vote. And so the overall goal of the Arena is to create a more informed electorate. We just want more people to know what's going on. We want to know what our leaders are doing, what those consequences are on us, why they're doing it, who's getting paid to do it, all those kind of things. And last thing I'll say is we have great reporters in this state. This is not an indictment of the South Carolina political press corps or the press corps as a whole. We have some fantastic journalists in this state. Problem is, we just don't have enough of them, right? Yeah. And they're overworked, they're underpaid, they're up against crazy deadlines, and they, you know, there's not a lot of flexibility. So we want to give journalists that flexibility and hopefully create something that provides nuance and depth and clarity to our state so that more people know what's happening, and hopefully they vote accordingly.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that struck me and why I was really excited to do this, you know, I've been involved kind of as a columnist for a while. I've been involved in not just the art angle of South Carolina, but I found a way to be able to use my art reputation and my involvement in the community to be to be civically active, right? So, I ran for city council years ago. That's a whole story we'll get into. And I found
I
out the
thought you
power of
walked.
the community.
Did you run or did you
Yeah,
walk?
walk. It was a little
Okay.
slight
All right.
walk, right? And so one of the things that really, really hit me about 8 years ago, when phrases like glaring phrases like fake news was coming out, right? It created this distrust of the people receiving their news. And one of the things that I wanted to combat with that at the time was I was like, look, when you're talking about this isn't a competition with other journalists in South Carolina, I agree with you. I never in my life felt like we have too many people reporting. I think that the issue is we don't have enough of them reporting. And,
Right.
and one of the things that I thought was really, really important and what the Arena offers in a new, unique way is that I feel that when you're looking at a national story, usually it breaks when there's local reporters on the ground, boots on the ground. And a lot of times when you see something break, or if you see something that changes how we look at things, or how we even, I'll never discredit a news outlet, because the news outlet has an ability with all the president's men to be able to change, a presidency. It could change how we look at policy, how we can look at laws. And I think that, South Carolina was really, really needing to have a bed of really, really thoughtful journalism. And for me as an essayist, for the most part, it's great to be able to have something where I can say, hey, I would like to write something that is a little more nuanced and not just something that's just hardcore. And I think that that's important too, but to also have the ability to give these South Carolina stories and be hyper local and to really highlight this community. I thought that was something that was really, really important. And again, when we talk about supporting other journalists, I have other writers from other publications here that want to do this podcast and talk about our shared experiences. And I think that, we can't do this alone. And if we're going to combat, any fears that we might have with democracy, I think the first place that you have to look is a fair and balanced, media, journalism, or whatever it is to get that news and that information out to people. And podcasting, to me, I think is a new way of journalism, right? It gives long form ways for people to really, really express themselves and give their ideas. And I think to be able to have, local politicians, local artists, local people in the community, business owners have that opportunity to speak on behalf of a state that they love. I think that's important, because we usually, outside of Dawn Staley, we don't really get great national news when people are talking about South Carolina. As soon as we see a national leg, bring up the name, bring up South Carolina, I'm scared. I'm like, oh shit, what's going on, right? So I would also say, like, what about you that made you want to do this? Because I know it's a uphill battle, right? So it's like, like starting a media company, it can be discouraging.
Yeah.
What made you think that it was worth the effort?
Well, for one, I worked in politics a long time, and after the 2022 election, I run a statewide campaign and a congressional campaign, lots of local races. I was really, really burned out, and I was burned out from exhaustion of doing this for 20 years straight without a break. But I was also just mentally exhausted with politics and how politics worked, and how divisive and toxic it had gotten. And part of me just wanted to get the hell out. I sort of tired from politics. And last year I did go in a little bit of a different direction. And we started a sports arm of our company called Bold South Sports, where we do sports marketing and we represent college and professional athletes. And that's been fantastic. And we're still doing that. But I'm never going to get out of politics. The question is, how am I going to use my experience, my knowledge to try to, I'm still an idealist at heart, where, you get into politics, not for the money. I can promise you that. You get in because you believe in it. And so I still have that. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? I got 2 kids at home now. The rat race of campaign world is probably behind me mostly, but how am I going to contribute to our state and our country and all that kind of stuff? And I was having dinner with somebody one night, and they asked, if you could do anything and change sort of the political world here in South Carolina, what would it be? What do you think South Carolina needs? And just instinctively, I said, well, we need a new media company. We need new resources for what's going on in our state. There's just not enough. And that got me thinking, like, could this be, how I can contribute? And so it's an idea. Sometimes, you talk about something for so long and then you realize, why don't I just do that? You want somebody else to do it, or you have this idea that somebody else will grab and run with, but nobody was running with it. Nobody was doing much. And we were in a position where we could probably make this happen if we put time and energy and resources into it. And so that's what we did. And for the last year, we've been building what is now the arena. And it's going to be so different from anything else that's in South Carolina. And to your point, we're going to have a diverse variety of content. We're going to have traditional articles, news articles that cover South Carolina politics, people, culture. We're going to have opinion. We're going to have essays. We're going to have podcasts. We're going to have video articles. We're investing a lot into digital assets so that, we're keeping up with the times too, because this is also about reaching people where they are. And somebody asked me recently when I was talking to them about the arena, they said, well, is it news? And I said, well, yeah, but like everything is news these days. In 2024, I open up my Twitter account and I'm reading news. Like that's what I use it for, to keep up with what's going on. A lot of people unfortunately get their news on Facebook. A lot of people get their news from podcasts, like whatever it is, but it's so diverse now. And so we're going to tap into that. We're going to go to where people are. We're going to have diverse voices, diverse issues. It is just something that has never existed before in South Carolina. I think pretty much everybody, the far right's probably not going to be the biggest fan of this, but that's okay. But most people are going to appreciate having this in South Carolina, and there's going to be something for everybody, including sports, music, culture, arts. We're going to be covering everything that makes South Carolina so unique and so special. And we're going to make sure that it is delivered in a way that it can be consumed by everybody. And that's important.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things, and this is kind of a thesis that I want to have with anytime I talk to someone on this pod or if I'm doing an interview, I'm an artist. So I come from, hip hop culture. I come from, being in the creative community. And it was always this ideal that you had to move out of South Carolina. You had to leave South Carolina.
Yep.
And over the years, I came to this conclusion that to say, hey, if I decide to stay in South Carolina, that is a revolutionary act, right? If I decide to be here, I'm making a conscious decision to be here. How are we going to make it better? And I think that what I feel from talking to you and the people that are involved with the arena right now, it's like there's a part of us where you don't know what you don't know because time will tell you what it will become.
Right.
But what I feel can be a North Star of some of the stuff that we're looking at is to always ask that question of why South Carolina? And I think that at the end of this, I think it's going to be why not South Carolina?
Yeah.
Right. I think that us having the ability to really, really highlight what's important in the state. And as an artist that travels, I will put our creative community, I will put our journalistic community, I will put our artist community, our business owners, our people, our cuisine against anybody that's in the Southeast or nationwide. And we just need to be able to highlight that.
And I would actually throw in political folks too. We punch way above our weight in South Carolina. I'm not going to go into all the names, but like it is baffling when you look at who we produce. Presidential candidates, even the politicians that are one of 435 or one of 100 are still more of the prominent politicians. And so there's something in the water here. There is something in the water in South Carolina. And, I'm originally from North Carolina and chose to come south for college and stayed like a lot of people. But my ancestors came here in the 1790s, right? And somehow I found my way back to South Carolina. It's like something's pulling me here, right? Something pulled me here originally. And, for the last 20 years, I've been a Democratic consultant running political campaigns. That's also not the easiest thing to do in
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've had opportunities to leave, to go to DC, go to bigger cities, go back to North Carolina, and something's kept me here. And I used to say that I wanted to. The reason I was staying in South Carolina is because I wanted to be here when it changed,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know exactly what I meant by that, but it's probably gradual change, and there's going to be some really high points. But I guess we'll feel it when we see it. We'll know it when we see it. It hadn't happened yet. We've seen some glimpses of good change in South Carolina since I came here 20 years ago. Long way to go. I want to be here when we can finally turn that page and say, okay, our work collectively is really starting to pay off, and I can praise my state more than I can criticize it.
Yeah.
But look, that comes down to people like us. We have these microphones, we have the resources, we have the folks who are going to follow us on Twitter and read our articles to make sure that we are telling an accurate portrayal of what's going on in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that the reporters and publications that exist in South Carolina try really hard to do that. And most of them do a heck of a job. Not all of them, but most of them do a heck of a job. And we are not here to compete with them. That's the other thing I think is going to confuse people in life. And I'm, by the way, former athlete, competitive as hell. But this isn't here to put the Post and Courier out of business. Like, that's not why we're here. We think the PNC and the state and the AP and all these folks do a great job. We want them to stay. We want them to stay forever. But there needs to be more voices. They can't ask all the questions. They can't be everywhere. We know what's happening to newsrooms. Mm-hmm. So this is a reaction to that, and hopefully it's a solution to it. So I can't tell you how excited I am, partly because I've read some of your pieces, Preach, and I've read now other articles that will be published tomorrow. I just can't wait to see people's reaction, and we're going to tell the good and the bad and the ugly. And there's a lot of good. I don't want people to think this is just, we're here to knock on South Carolina. We're going to have some things to say about certain people, certain things, certain issues, of course, but there's a lot of good to tell. And we're doing a lot of that in the launch edition. We'll be doing that over the course of the next few months. So really excited.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it. And I feel like, I always had this theory that people ask me what I love most about my family. And I tell people they're mine. And that's how I feel about South Carolina. And with the good and the bad, this is my home. And if I criticize it, I'm criticizing it, with
because you love it,
with an approach of love. Yeah, absolutely. And
somebody told me a quick story, real quick. Somebody told me about a baseball coach I had one time, and he first day of practice, I had a little stubble on my chin, and he got in my face and he said, "You go back to your dorm right now and you shave that. And if you're not back in 5 minutes, you're off the team." And man, that was, I did it, and I came back and I thought, God, he hates me. And somebody told me, no, it's the opposite, because he wouldn't have said that if he didn't care. Right. Yeah. And so that's exactly how I feel about South Carolina when we are giving it some constructive criticism, is because we love this place. We're here, and I'm probably going to be here for the rest of my life, and I'm raising my kids here. And look, I spent enough time at the State House to know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the state that needs to get fixed. And it's on us to make sure people know what's going on and do something about it.
All right. Well, I think that covers it. That sounds good to you guys.
We got work to do, don't we? We got to get back to work.
Yeah, we got work to do.